Well, hello MGTOW, welcome back. Today I have several things to talk about. Uh, and let's just get right into it. MGTOW is the philosophy of the free man. The philosophy of the man that desires to be free. And amazingly, we have come to discover that we share a lot more things in common as men from all different sorts of backgrounds than we thought we did. Um, Politically, the MGTOW tend to be right-wing people. We tend to be libertarians. We tend to be conservatives. Some of us conservatives. Some of us Republicans. Right? In my case, I'm a classic libertarian, as I've stated before in another one of my videos. Ayn Rand style. Milton Friedman style. That sort of libertarianism, and by that I mean that I am politically speaking or socially speaking a liberal, right? Now, the word liberal has many negative connotations, right? Nowadays it does. But liberal didn't mean that. Didn't mean that you were a leftist. Liberal in the past meant that you allowed other people to do as they wished. And so in that sense, I'm a liberal, right? I don't care what people do in their personal lives. And when I talk of women, I don't try to shame them so that they change, like other MGTOW content producers. They want women to behave a certain way so that they can have their go at it. I quite frankly don't care. But fiscally speaking, right? That is an economic term, right? I am a conservative. I believe that man is most free when he can take charge of his own financial destiny. And that's what I share with the conservatives and the Republicans and anyone else who leans towards the right side of the political spectrum. Now, with that out of the way, let's just make it clear again. I am not a leftist. So for those of you who accuse me of being a leftist, I have just cleared the smoke for you. In fact, I'm much more right-wing than many of you will ever be, simply because there are some values that we also do not have in common, right? And some things that you are not willing to part with that are completely in line with the right-wing way of thinking and doing things. For example, many of you will not dare go, get away from your weekends. Many of you will not dare part with your holiday pay. Many of you will not dare get away from your 8-hour workday. These are all things that the left unionized and bargained for in labor struggles of turn of the century America, or an industrial age America. And so a lot of people are not willing to part with those things. Does that make them a leftist? Maybe so. I don't know. So I'm not a leftist. Let's leave it at that. Now, as far as me criticizing nationalism, right, the nationalists, let me just say that nationalism has nothing to do with left-wing policies. Historically, nationalism has been more linked to conservatism. In other words, these are people who want to keep things the way they are. And if we look at where nationalism has taken root, right, throughout the world, You know, we can think of examples like you know, Mussolini's Italy, for example, right? This nationalism, this fascism that came right out of the minds of Italy, right? With you know, the Italian labor parties or whatnot. Uh, it's always, you know, the fascism. It's always accompanied nationalism. So it's not surprised that we see it today. Uh, you know, this nationalism taking root in America, um, or rather, that nationalism has has led to the fascism that we are encountering in this country. And it's sad because you know, I was sold on capitalism. I really was. And then I come here to America and I discover that what they have going on is something totally different. They have fascism taking place. You know. And again, where have we seen this in the world, right? We saw it again. We saw it in Italy. Uh, Later on, we saw it in Germany, right, with Hitler, and that was supposedly a left-leaning nationalism, right? The Nazis, right? National Socialists, supposedly they called themselves, but in reality, um, you know, there was no that brand of socialism was you know, no more valid than the Federal and Federal Express, right? And so we saw nationalism in Germany, and we saw nationalism again in Japan, right? Uh, just before World War II. These people have really, and to this day, many Japanese still believe that, you know, that they're the, you know, the best that the world has, you know, has created, right? The people of the rising sun, right? The first to everything, I guess. I don't know. The whole point here is that, you know, somehow people start thinking that they're better than everybody else. You know, they're better than everybody else. And so we saw nationalism in Japan too. And, and the fever of this national identity in pre-World War II Japan was so strong that during the war we had to, or the United States rather, had to unfortunately bomb the civilian population. Right? We threw two bombs, one in Nagasaki, one in Hiroshima. Right? The two atomic bombs that we used, and that was the only way that, you know, although some people argue that the war was almost over, you know, regardless of whether we bombed Japan or not, you know, I believe that perhaps without, you know, us, you know, or the United States taking such actions, you know, the course of the war would have been rather different. It might have extended itself a little longer, and so now, unfortunately, we're seeing, you know, the rise of neo-Nazism, and these people, although they don't call themselves neo-Nazis, right? Because there's so many negative connotations, you know, associated with that terminology. They think just like the fascists of yore. They think just like the fascists of the past. They think that because of their race, right? They're you know, they're just superior. It's given, right? And their interactions with you, their mannerisms, the way they speak, the way they you know, they carry themselves in the world, right? Throughout life, right? It exudes this bravado and this mentality of entitlement. You know, the world belongs to them. You see, and that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing because the minute you start thinking that you're better than everybody else, that's when you fail. That's when you begin your decline. And it can be argued that, you know, unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately because I love this this nation, this country, right? this continent, I should say, or this piece of land that I've become acquainted with, right? It can be argued that America is an empire in decline, and if that were the case, it is because of these ideas of nationalism, these ideas that we're better than everybody else, that because we're Americans, we're entitled to it. Because we were born here, we're entitled to it. I remember several years back, you know, when the current president was on his way to being inaugurated, right? He was campaigning. Right? I remember my own son, an American, said to me that perhaps, you know, those people there standing in the corner may be from somewhere else. And I said to myself, wow, you know, if this is what's really taking place in the mind of children, you know, in the minds of children, right? When they are witnessed to all the filth that comes out of the television, you know, what could be taking place in the minds of adults, you know? And we've seen that throughout history. Nazism or nationalism or neo-fascism or fascism, jingoism, you know, all these things related to you know, the exclusion of the immigrant, the exclusion of the incoming persons into a certain piece of territory, right? You know, they have never led to anything good. They have led to genocide. They have led to war. And no value is created in society because of this way of thinking. People say that, you know, minorities like Hispanics and blacks are really doing a number on American society, and I have to disagree. I disagree not because it's you know, it may or may not be true. But I disagree because there are other groups of people who are really changing the landscape of American culture. And if we have a culture war going, the people that are winning this battle are the intellectuals. They're the educated people, the people that produce and have a say in how American society is governed, how American society is steered. If you look around you, MGTOW, you would see that there are people who are educating themselves and taking advantage of all the opportunities that this country has to offer, that this great nation of ours has to offer. You see the Chinese are going to the American universities, and so are the Indians. These people are becoming high-ranking professionals in their field, in their chosen careers. They have a say in what the future of this country is going to be like. Those are the people who quietly are changing the landscape of America today. And they will have, again, they will dictate the future of this great nation of ours. So, if you're worried about America becoming more Hispanic, right? If you're worried about the casserole of people, right, the mobs of people that you see at Walmart, you know, you're worried about the wrong things, because the people that are really influencing American society today, or they're positioning themselves to influence it in the future, are the immigrants who are educating themselves. And it baffles my mind that there are people who are nationalists, and yet they shop at Walmart. You see, if you shop at Walmart, then you shouldn't be saying anything about globalization, because you're feeding into it. But the reality is, MGTOW, that these people don't have a choice. The world is already integrated. The the world, I don't mean the United States, I mean the world, for the most part, is already multicultural. And this multiculturalism brings great things. It brings people with different ideas, people who challenge the status quo for the betterment of the society in which they live. We all benefit from the variety of products, services, and ideas that we encounter in a multicultural society. Societies that do not evolve, societies that are stagnant, perish. You see? And this idea that people are chained to their physiology is a thing of the past. You see? Anyone can produce. That is the beauty of American society. Even women. In fact, as I've said in one of my previous videos, it has been traditionally the Anglo-American segment of the American population that has allowed feminism to take root in this country. So for those of you that say that Hispanics are the ones bringing feminism from abroad, you may want to take a look at the history of feminism and to see where it really comes from. Now, the last thing I want to say is that this shift towards looking at ourselves as Americans, in an isolated fashion. See, the shift towards putting America first, right? And this phrase of America first is a phrase that has that comes from a very bad place. You may want to look into where it really comes from, because it's not new with this president. But this shift into looking at America first and putting America first, on the surface, for those who are not acquainted with the history of this country and the racial history of this country, it may seem innocuous. But the reality is that, the shift of putting America first is rather harmful for all parties involved. Let not fascism bring about the destruction of American society in the way that it did for German society. The reason we have multiculturalism today as an idea of immigration, right? As opposed to assimilation, we have multiculturalism, right? The reason we have this, it was because it was planned after World War II, so that the mess up, right, that was created because of Nazism will not repeat itself. That is why the leaders of the world have decided that nationalism would be no more, and that's why YouTube is not giving these people a platform on which to spout their beliefs. It's unfortunate because they do have a right to free speech according to those ideas of the Enlightenment. But their ideas have proven themselves to be very harmful, you see, to society at large. It can lead to very ugly things, as we've seen in this past couple of years. So Nazism, it's a no-go. And multiculturalism, for those of you that are not aware of it yet, is here to stay. I don't do this for attention. I don't do this for money. I talk about MGTOW because the philosophy appeals to me as the philosophy of a free man. A man that wants to be free of boundaries imposed by governments. Remember that nationalism, as it pertains, or as it's related to the nation states, the modern nation state of that we see today, it's impossible without large government, without large government intervention. You can't have one without the other. And so I say yes to being free, yes to open borders, yes to men being able to go wherever they want without there being a cop or someone with a badge demanding some sort of documentation. Yes to a unified world, a world of peace, tranquility, the advancement of knowledge, the eradication of ignorance, superstition, religious warfare, mysticism, and ignorance. I hope I wasn't talking above somebody's head or whatever. These are just my views. I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.